In this episode of Clubhouse Chronicles, we will be taking a deep dive into Is It Really Black Men's Fault from the perspective of the Sisterhood panel discussion.
What's going on? What's going on? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Curtis House. I want to do something very unique, very different today. Ladies, I'm inviting y'all to the stage. This is a women led space. I'm just here to facilitate the conversation and ask questions. And I want to hear from you ladies today on this beautiful Sunday. Hope you've had a great weekend. Um, I'm inviting y'all to come up on the stage if you're available to speak. Um, ping the room. So what we're doing here, and invite other ladies to the space, y'all. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna, I'm gonna have you ladies kind of answer this topic of the room. Is it really black men's fault? Is it black men's fault with how our community is how it's set up right now? Is it black fault for lack of fathers, lack of leadership in our community, lack of resources, lack of education for our youth? Is it black men's fault for, the low marriage rates? So I want to hear from you ladies. This is a women led space. Um, Even though I'll be top left, I'm going to, you know, y'all going to be really running this conversation. So this is a women interview. So I'm inviting the ladies to come up on the stage. If you would like to participate in this dialogue, I definitely want to hear from y'all. Is it really black men's fault with where our community is, where our society is right now? Is it really our fault? And if it is, how so? Um, and is it solely black men's fault? Um, are black women also at fault? I definitely want to hear y'all opinions on this. Ping the room, y'all. Share it with other ladies. This is, like I said, women led space today, women interview. I'm going to be asking you ladies questions, get your thoughts and perspectives on things. I want to have a really interesting and productive conversation today. It's fault. Let's talk about it. What's up, Erica? Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing, Curtis?
I'm doing all right. Not bad. Doing all right. Yeah, let's get into it, man. And like I said, ladies, women led space today, mostly women on the stage. You know, If some of my peoples come through today, I'll mod them to kind of help me facilitate this space. But yeah, y'all, ladies, this is
Join
y'all day
us.
today.
Join us. Join us,
Yeah.
ladies. Join. Join the conversation.
So what do you think, Erica? What do you think about this topic? Is it really black men's fault?
And are you talking about the condition of the Black experience, the Black
Mm-hmm.
community? What are we talking about? Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about that, but also we're gonna kind of categorize things, go to little some nuances, like when it comes to marriage, when it comes to family, when it comes to education, when it comes to young boys, and you
Okay.
know,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. All right. So I guess
leadership,
I'll
all of that.
I'll I guess I'll start off general with a general statement. I do believe that the responsibility begins with the Black man in our community. Um, Certainly, I'm a Gen X. My parents are baby boomers. So if we're talking about, the silent generation, the baby boomer generation, those were periods where women didn't have rights, right? Um, Women were essentially property in the eyes of society and the law. Women couldn't own their own properties for the most part. They couldn't have bank accounts. If something needed to be tended to in the family, in the home, the man was always addressed, right? And not the woman. So I think the failures of Black men to keep their families together, the failure of the Black man to stay with their families and not create other families outside of their marriage, definitely um, was the beginning of the breakdown of the Black family, and essentially what led to the Black community as a whole, because women were essentially forced to, right, had the responsibility of keeping their families together in the absence, a lot of times, of their man. So I'll just leave it there. They don't bear 100% of the responsibility today in 2024, but I believe the problems began with the Black man. So yes, I'm done.
Okay, no, I appreciate you, Erica. So, welcome, London, Jaleesa, Kay, Michelle, if y'all want to come up. This is y'all day today. This is a women-led space. This is a women interview. I want to hear from you, ladies, in terms of, is it black men's fault when it comes to our community as a whole, when it comes to marriage and family and education? Like, what do y'all think about this topic? I want to ask y'all a few questions, throughout this room, but yeah, I want to hear y'all thoughts. Is it really the black men's fault, where the conditions of our community, is it solely on black men? Do you feel like, you know, or maybe it's not entirely black men's fault. Maybe we carry a certain percentage. So I want to hear y'all opinions on this topic. So very fascinated to see what y'all thoughts are. But yeah, y'all jump in, ladies. This is y'all space. I'm just here to moderate and ask questions. But this is y'all chance to share y'all thoughts. But go ahead, ladies. What do y'all think?
Hi, Curtis. Hi, everybody. Well, Jesus, is it really the black man's fault? I'm gonna ask you, Curtis. Is this a rhetorical question, or do you want me to answer this?
No, no, I'm being sincere. You know I'm being sincere. You know I'm being honest.
Okay,
No
okay,
trolling, no bullshit.
okay. So yes, the answer is yes. It really is the black man's fault. Men are supposed to be the leaders of their communities, and they have led us astray. And there's no way to argue or combat that notion, because look at the state of where the black community, and I'll put community in quotation marks because I really don't believe that there is one, but just look at the state of it now, right, in 2024 currently. um, yes, we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. And I think that black men just have something, pathologically wrong with them, as a whole, that keeps them from being able to, um, surpass whatever they believe is holding them back from being, successful in society in the way that other races of men are able to. Um, so I could say a lot more, but I'm just going to leave it right there. So I see the room is just getting started. But yes, my answer is yes, it really is their fault.
Oh, Curtis,
Okay.
can I ask you a question,
Oh,
please?
yeah, absolutely.
Are you going to allow male voices on the stage during this room?
It's up to you. It's up to you, ladies. This is this is a women-led space. It's up to you, ladies. Majority rules.
Okay. So my thing is, it's your room. You created it. I'm just asking that if there are any male voices that come to the stage and become derogatory or abusive, that you check them, please. That's all I ask. Protect us.
I got you. I understand. Duly noted, and yes, I will do that for sure because I really want to I really want to hear y'all opinion and thoughts on this, and I'm gonna ask you ladies questions throughout this conversation. So yes, absolutely, we will. I will definitely make sure that this is a
This is
safe
a
space
safe
and
space. Thank
it's a
you. I
productive
appreciate it.
space, of course. No problem, absolutely. But yeah, ladies, what say y'all? What are y'all thoughts on this topic? Thank you for your thoughts, London. I guess I want to give other ladies a chance to answer and chime in, and then I have another question. But go ahead, ladies. Welcome to Day, Gabrielle, Unique, Jaleesa. What are y'all thoughts? I guess no thoughts. But maybe folks are
I'm
busy.
sorry, I'm driving. I was just gonna say, um, I've been trying to think about my answer, and I would say that they definitely have a heavy hand in the contribution to it. I'm just not one to blame one part of the community for the downfall of us all, but I definitely feel like they have had a hand in it for sure.
Like a heavier hand, Unique, is that what you're saying? Not
I
not
would say
equal, but heavier.
yes, yeah. I would say the hand is heavy. I mean, honestly, uh, it's we're already a minority, right? And I think that that's pressure on all sides. But when we start going against each other within our you know race, it makes it even more difficult. And I think that it's unfortunate, but a lot of the things that the others have tried to put on our backs, put on us, we've kind of helped them. And I do think that, both parties, men and women, are powerful in that way where we can push their agendas for them. And that's what I see happening. So that's why I say I can't say it's all on them because I feel like it's all of our responsibility, but they definitely have a heavy hand in it, especially when it comes to the women. And I'll land there.
I appreciate that, Unique. My question to follow up with that, ladies, is um, what do you think has caused? What are some of the causes that y'all believe are hindering black men from like stepping up? Because I hear this a lot on this app. Black men need to step up. Black men need to step up. So, what do you think are the causes that hinders black men from stepping up? And what does stepping up look like to y'all?
Well, I think I'll pop that off by saying unhealed trauma is what I believe prevents men from stepping up. Because I think a lot of men are still grappling with the pain and the hurt that they have from having their heart broken by the first woman who ever did that, which is their mom in a lot of cases. I think mothers, some sons have felt like their mothers have failed them, and unfortunately, I believe that conditions their view, their worldview, their perspectives, their feelings about women in general. Um, I will just jump out and say that I think a lot of men don't really like women. And I'm not saying that in a homosexual way. I'm just saying that I think men harbor a lot of um, just bad feelings about women overall, and they don't really care about and respect them for being an adult or human. So I do think that once they can reconcile their feelings about their communities and women in general, I think that they would be in a better position to step up. I'm done.
Curtis, I just think it's just, I don't know, it's strange to me that the issues and the problems that black men have are always blamed on black women. It's weird that we're always the root cause of their issues and their problems. Black men are their own problem. They get in their own way. They're the problem. They're the problem. Um, and I think that they don't want to accept that. They don't want to believe that. They want to always blame black women, or they want to blame, I don't know, society, slavery, the white, like the list goes on and on. But I've never heard that, a black man say, "Hey, it was me. It's just me. I'm a fucked up individual. I'm a fucked up person. I fucked up, and you know I want to do better." Like I've never heard that. It's always blaming someone else. I've heard more black women say, you know, I fucked up. I need to do better, whatever the case. But I never hear that from the men. They're always blaming someone else. So when you ask, what is the cause? That question is just kind of loaded to me, because it's like it's already, and I don't know if you probably didn't intentionally mean to do it, but it's just like, what do you think the cause is for black men not being able to do X, Y, and Z? It's kind of like taking the responsibility off of them and pushing it somewhere else. It's like, oh, they can't just be doing this for no reason. They just can't be not taking care of their children for no reason. They just can't be not respecting black women for no reason. They cannot just be killing each other for no reason. There has to be some overlapping, or I mean overarching cause, this thing that's just making them do this and putting a gun to their head making them do this. And there's not. There really isn't. There's not. They just are fucked up individuals as a whole.
Hi, Curtis. Hi, everybody. Can you guys hear me? Because I'm on my
Yeah, we can hear
headphones.
you. Hmm.
Good morning, or no, afternoon, sorry. Sunday afternoon. I wanted to answer the question, is it really black men's fault? Maybe when I was hurt and frustrated with how things were going in my life that I didn't really expect, I would have said, yes, it's their fault. But now that I have a clearer, it's like I can see clearly now. I can actually, things a little bit much more, makes more sense to me now. I'm a little more logical. I've worked on that. I've worked more on my logical reasoning, because I used to be more emotionally charged, because I was hella frustrated at one point. But now that my logic is much more stronger, it's not their fault. I think of the times when I chose certain people to be in my life. That was my decision. That was all my decision, because people will only be in your life if you allow them to be, right? Nobody forces you to be in their life. Nobody puts a gun to your head and say, you know, I gotta be in your life or else I'm gonna kill you. No, you've decided to let people enter your life, and therefore they come with their baggage, they come with their traumas and all that stuff. And you gotta deal with it. Deal with it, deal or no deal, right? And so as I'm thinking about it now, I get to choose who I allow to be in my life. Even if the person presents themselves a certain way from the jump, I still get to say to them, no, I'm not moving fast. I'm not going to move so fast to the point where I am making irrational decisions. I've decided that, this is my life, and I know and I want it to go the way that I want it to go. And if it doesn't seem like you're on board, well, you gotta make a decision for yourself, because I've already made my decision. So to answer the question, no, it's not black men's fault that women choose the men in their lives that are not aligned with them, that are not healed, right? That they don't really know for sure if this is the right person to enter your family. If you have children, you're gonna have somebody in your life, in your child's life, and you yourself are not really sure about that person, but you're gonna present the person to your children. No, that's more you than them, right? So I think people have to, or let me say, women have to really be more logical in their reasoning and judgment, right? We got to be a little bit more judgmental to the fact that, to the point where we're saying to ourselves, this person is going to be somebody I have in my life. Is this person going to help, you know, add on to what I already have going on? Or are they going to be here to disrupt what I had already started, right? And so I choose the first. I will choose somebody who will add on to what I have going on in a good way. Not to be disruptive, not to be toxic, not to be, not no, no. So that's my answer, and I'm sticking with it, and I hope, it didn't sound all jumbled up. I try to be a little bit more succinct with my answer today. Thank you.
No, I
Curtis, the
appreciate that.
title. Oh, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
No, the title says, "Is it really black men's fault? What's it?"
So, great question. It is, because it is, when it comes to the Black community, it can be also leadership. It can be also business, family, relationships, marriage, stability. Because I've heard on this app for from the beginning, Black men need to step up. Black men have fallen short. Black men need to be the leaders for our community. So I want to kind of unpack. So the it to answer your question simply is, it's a nuance of things, not particularly one specific. It's, one specific area. It's multiple areas. So that's why I titled it that way. So I want us to unpack quite a few things, if that makes sense.
Well, I think it depends on what angle we're going to do this from, because on one hand, I've heard black men say that they're the leaders, but then on the other hand, I've also heard black men say that they're nobody. Basically, they feel like they were automatically assigned leadership, and they feel like that they don't have to be leaders. Like they can choose to be leaders or not. Um, so if we're gonna go with the route that they are the
Ooh,
leaders. Hmm?
sorry to cut you off. Sorry to cut you off. That was very profound. 10 seconds. Let's rewind back. Do
Hmm.
you believe, let's tap into that leadership a little bit. Do you believe men choose to be leaders, or there's like a, we're called to be leaders, or is it a
I
little of
don't.
both?
It's probably a little bit of both. I don't think everyone is a leader, and that's not gendered. So there are a lot of men who aren't leaders, which is why I think that if you're not a leader, then you don't get leadership benefits. So,
Or
which is fine.
responsibilities.
Or responsibility, right? Because the thing about leadership is leaders take accountability for the people that follow them. So you're ultimately responsible for the, like, it's like having a team. It's like being a supervisor and you've got a team of employees. If the people on your team that you're supervising are fucking up, the manager is going to come to you and ask what's going on. They're going to come to you and ask, you need to find out what's going on with these people, because they're not producing. So there's a lot of moving pieces. I'm not going to say that everything is black men's fault, because that would be, I mean, that'd be ridiculous to say that everything, like, black women don't contribute at all. I think that's a bit of a stretch. um but it's interesting because I don't really think that a lot of black men are willing to take, like, their part in it. Like, they're willing to say, no, none of this is our fault, this is all on the black women. And that's where it becomes a little weird. Because I'm like, well, if y'all are the leaders, then how could you not be a part of the problem? Like, that doesn't, the math doesn't math. Now, if black men are not the leaders, then okay, you might be able to have the position that it's nothing is your fault. So I mean, I don't know. I think it kind of depends, but it's definitely a mixture of both. Like, a balanced, level-headed adult would not be able to sit there and say that it's only black men's fault. That doesn't really make sense to me.
And just to add on to that, I'm taking this leadership course, and I actually thought before this course that leaders were chosen, like you were born to be a leader, like there was this natural leadership qualities people are born with. But after taking this course, there's research that says no, you could develop leadership skills. You can become a leader. So with that being said, I think, you know, black men or whoever, men, when they decide to be in leadership roles, they have to have had done the work to have developed those leadership skills, because there's a responsibility that comes with being in that role. That if you say, you know, like, let's say for example, you decide to be a father or a husband or even a boyfriend, because that's still a leadership role, right? There's a responsibility that you have in that role. And if someone thinks that, oh, there's no accountability, there's no responsibility, I can just be, then that's where the problem is. Because any position that you are now, you're not going to be depended on by somebody else, is a leadership role. And at least that's how I see it. Because then if you're a father, you have a child who's going to depend on you. Therefore, that child's going to look at you as a leader, right? If you're married, or if you're somebody's boyfriend, you have a woman who's going to look at you and rely on you and depend on you. So in order for you to be reliable and dependable, you have to have developed leadership skills that would allow you to be someone that someone can rely or depend on. And I think that's the problem when it comes to not taking this ownership and not taking it seriously too. Because it's not that you're just gonna have the title of dad or father or husband and not have done some work to sustain that role. And I think that's where it becomes a little bit like, okay, so let's look at that and see, how do you get better at this? How do you develop those skills?
I saw a comment in the chat that the idea of leadership and gender should be divorced, and I agree 100%. There are some men who are great leaders. There are some men who are very poor leaders. And it could be very fair to say that they have no leadership qualities at all. And I know some women who are fantastic leaders, and there are women who are shit poor leaders. I don't think that leadership is something that we assign to a gender. I think this idea that men are supposed to lead their families and lead their households is biblical at its root. And I don't even really think it applies anymore in 2024. So not just because a man is a man does not mean he is a leader. I think that we all know that. We see that in our lives. We see that at work. We see that in our businesses. We see that in our marriages, in our relationships. We see it. And I think that we all need to, like, kind of throw this idea out that men are born leaders, because they are all not born leaders.
No, nobody's
So
born a leader. I'm sorry. I just want to just make that point. Nobody's born a leader. We all have to develop leadership skills. Now, some people have stronger qualities in certain areas naturally, right? Because that's part of their gifts. But nobody's born a leader. I do want to push back on that, because I feel like if we say it's not as tied into a gender, it gets a little funky in the sense that I just don't want it to get to the point where now roles are reversed, and women have this kind of like there's this image of women as the head of the household when they are with a man, and the man becomes the most submissive. I just feel like if we're not careful with that logic, it can turn into this idea of that masculine women that we talk about on here, and then the man becomes the feminine man. So I mean, I don't want to throw those. I don't really like those terms. I don't really like those concepts. But I just don't want it to. I just feel like that's where we're headed when we say it's not assigned to a gender. I'm old school. I'm very traditional in the sense that I feel like men are designed to be in certain roles and women are designed to be in certain roles, but together we complete each other. That's my lot. That's how I see things. But to say that, you know, now women can be in these leadership roles, and then what is the man's role? Like, what would be the man's role in that case? So that's where I'm kind of like, I need a little bit more clarity on that.
I'll just say that it has already happened. It's something that started decades ago. There's already been a shift where women have had to be in leadership. One example is my household. Another example are my aunt's households. Another example are, grandparents' households. It's already happened. I think I think we're at a point now where, I mean, if you don't agree with a woman being the leader of a home, then I guess that's your prerogative to believe that, right? Obviously, you probably wouldn't end up in a relationship or a situation where you would be forced to be a leader, because you might feel that the man should be leading you, and that's okay too. But that is not everyone's dynamic. I just don't think that we are living in that dynamic anymore, because the period of time where women didn't have rights to anything is over. Women can own property. Women can purchase property. Women can have bank accounts and investment accounts. We're just not living in the same dynamic of old. And, like I said, my parents are baby boomers. My mother had to leave the house because my dad abandoned it. So it's whether or not we want to have leadership roles. In a lot of cases, it is forced upon us. I'm done.
so can y'all hear me? Got a question for the ladies. Um, Let me read it to you all. Question for the women in relationships. Do you want a man that leads you and other men and women, or just you and your family together, including extended family? So I'm going to read the question again. Question for the women in relationships. Do you want a man that leads you and other men and women, or just you and your family together, including extended family? Did y'all hear the question? Y'all heard the
Yeah,
question?
you said women in relationships, so that means if we're not in a relationship, we can't answer, right?
Uh, I mean, This is what the person sent, but I mean, yeah, I mean, you could answer if even if you're single. Like,
If I
what's your
were in a
expectation?
relationship, or okay, I would like the man who leads his family and the community. Like, if I don't know if that was one of the options, like outside of the family as well. Was that one of the options?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to it again. Do you want your man, do you want a man that leads you and other men and women, or just you and your family together, including extended family? So basically what they're asking is, do you want that man to solely lead you and the family or the community?
Yeah, I'm more of a lead my family and the community. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like we're bigger than ourselves, right? We should be working towards something greater than ourselves. And we should always be striving to better the community, for the common good, right? It's like the work that Dr. King did, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, all those people who we stand on their shoulders. I feel like we should also. I want my man to be like that because I'm like that, right? I need somebody who's like that because I'm like that. I believe in serving the community, serving my family, because I know my children are going to be part of the community. So it makes sense for me to prepare my children to be in the community, but also be giving back to the community that my children will be part of. And so to me, that's more of a holistic approach because we're not a cocoon. We're not like in a pupa, right? Stuck in a little bubble. Because if we only take care of our family, then we're only looking at our family as if our family is in isolation to the rest of the world. So I feel like giving back to the world will also like benefit us as a family. So that's my answer.
I don't know who asked the question, but I would like to answer the question as well. But my answer to that is I like Bernie's answer, but I want my man to lead the community as well, but I would want my man to not lose sight and not lose focus of his own family. Usually, when people feel like they have to do the family, and outside of that, they lose focus of what's important. Not saying that the community isn't important because it's an ongoing cycle, right?
Did she cut out for y'all or just me?
She got a
Oh,
phone call.
I
well,
got a
let's see if she comes
yeah, I
back.
got a phone call. I'm
Let's.
sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was kind of done, but I wouldn't want my man to like lose sight of his family comes first. Don't try to lead the community, and if you can't effectively do home first, you need to take care of home first. But if you can do both effectively, and that's something that you're good at, then cool, we don't have a problem. But I wouldn't. If it's starting to cause issues with my family first, then no, I don't want you to go ahead and do that.
Um, Curtis, had you asked that when I first got on the app, I probably would have had a different answer. Um, as of today, I'm good with my man leading me and my family. Um, by doing that, he can be the example for other people. But I've realized listening to conversations and people talk, we don't have a community. So since there is no community and everybody's kind of like every man for themselves, I'm
Hmm.
not about to put my man on the line for people who don't respect it, who won't help if he happens to be harmed, who, are willing to throw my family under the bus to make sure that their family is good. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of where we're at in society. Um, so I mean, you know that's kind of where I'm at with it. People always talk about community while simultaneously saying shit like fuck them kids, while simultaneously fucking people over and simultaneously talking shit about their own community that they say they care about. Let's just cut the shit, right? Let's just finally all admit that we genuinely don't have a community. If you look at the concept of community and how it's supposed to be practiced, we don't do that. And I think once we get out of delusion land and clubhouse land, we will start to realize that and move accordingly. Um, yeah, and that's not advice. That's just kind of how I see it at this point. Because again, we are not acting like a community, so therefore you don't get community benefits, at least not from my man. So that's how that goes.
So I want to say this. So for the women who, because I mean, if you don't know, you should know by my PTR, I don't date black men. But um, for the women, the black women who decide to, um, I feel like they should not want them to necessarily leave the community unless that man, has a desire to, or is felt led to do so. Um, because a lot of the men, black men that have quote unquote led the community, which again I'm putting in quotation marks because I also don't believe there is a real black community. They only come together for, the death of George Floyd and like shit like that.
Oh,
So um yeah, I think like a lot of the black male leaders, once they become um leaders of the community per se, at least some of the well-known ones like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and I mean, even look at Sir Major. Sir Major, he's fucking going to prison next week, from stealing from Black Lives Matter and shit. He was putting himself out there to be a leader of the fucking community. So I feel like a lot of these black men that become leaders of the community become even more corrupt and more disgusting and more degenerate as they go up the ladder. So that's the only reason why I would say black women should not want them to, to because their degeneracy gets amplified, for the whole world to see.
Sad but true.
I have another question here. Give me a second. Uh, um, should a married man be expected to lead other women in his community, or is our leadership only for other men? Should a married man, I'm gonna
Other
repeat the
me.
question. Yeah, yeah. Should a married man be expected to lead other women in his community, or is our leadership only for other men?
Other single women in the community? Children, girl children in the community?
It didn't go into specifics.
Um, I, I'll answer it if you like. But me personally, I feel like it should only be for other men. Like you should be able to set an example for other men, so that other men want to aspire to have families like you and be a great man in a community like you. I don't think that any married man should be talking to any woman, whether she's single or married, unless you guys are having like some type of let's say if you guys are having some type of like couple dates or double dates or I don't know, a couple dinner, or when couples hang out, whatever, when not couple trips, whatever. That's to be the only time that you guys should be engaging with another woman outside of your marriage. I mean, obviously, you could talk to people, have friends and whatever, whatnot. But I don't know. I feel like it's a very sticky situation when guys are interacting very deeply with other women that are not their wives. That always concerns me because it always sometimes to me looks like, not all, but more than a few of them be trying to get some side chicks, and that be concerning me a little bit. You feel me? So I don't know. I feel like you guys should just aim to set an example for other men. I don't know why that's not the standard, but hey, I'm not a man.
I agree. Lead by example. Lead other men by example, I think is a good way to go. You should be making sure your house is clean before thinking about leading other people. But a man, especially a married man, should not be leading women outside his marriage unless they're at work. I'm done.
So, I will answer this. I might have a little bit of this may be a trigger statement, so I'm gonna forewarn y'all before I say this. So let's use Clubhouse for this example, right? Just really quick. So if we're talking about our Clubhouse community, people that we frequent spaces with, people that we're, modded up with, whatever it is, If we use Clubhouse community, of course, everybody is in different walks in their life, right? Some people are in a relationship, some people are single, some people are dating, some people are married, so on and so forth. You come together, and I think it's probably a little bit it's more normalized, I would say, on Clubhouse to be with people who are in different relationships, statuses, together in community versus outside of Clubhouse, right? So I think case in point, like look at the stage, right? Like I can see Curtis is a married man. I know Kayla's in a relationship, and I can think Unique and I myself are single, right? Cool. Um, do we expect someone like Curtis to defend us in a space, right? Do we expect this? And I'm just going to throw this out there. I think it's a yes and no question, right? It's no answer, I should say. And the reason is because there's some sort of a level of decorum that I think we can all say that we expect from each other. This is why I always say I don't expect anything from anybody. But I think sometimes we feel entitled because we are in this space together, right? A lot of us frequent the app a lot, right? A lot of us spend a lot of time on this app. Where like I think a lot of us like to deny things. A lot of us like to say we don't even care about Clubhouse and so on and so forth. But it shows something different when we're all in these different rooms or different spaces talking about things. So, Curtis, to answer your question, I think if we're talking about outside of this app, I think if we're talking about a normal married man outside of Clubhouse, should he have to defend a single woman in his community? I would say he probably should not, right? Is the expectation probably is not there, but I've seen that. Now, as far as Clubhouse is concerned, it it kind of just depends on the person, right? It depends on what is the expectation, what is the relationship. Are y'all just very surface level? We mod rooms together and we run rooms and we laugh about it. Cool. Or is it more where y'all have more intimate spaces? Do you guys talk outside the app? Is there a friendship grown from it? I think if you are expecting those things, yes, like you should expect someone to defend you, married or not, right? How can I sit there and engage with you in conversations? How can I sit there and be in community with you, but then when it comes to I need you to defend me or have my back, like you now want to walk away because you want to pull the married card? If that's the case, don't be around single women. So that's why I say it's like it's difficult because I see both sides of it. It's not expected to. We definitely appreciate it. But at the same time, though, you kind of got to pick and choose what the boundaries are and set those accordingly. So I'll end with that.
Curtis, can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Sure, give me a second. Um, should a married man be expected to lead other women in his community, or is our leadership only for other men?
Well, I think, like Ade just made that point, which was very, made a lot of sense. I think the answer could be yes, right? Because, well, I don't know if I like the word expected, but can a married man lead other women? If that were the question, I think it could be yes, because you're leading us right now in this conversation, right? Expected to lead us, that's a different ball game. There's no expectation because I think when you have expectation, especially for men who are married, then it lends itself to crossing this line, I believe, right? If I'm a woman who is single and you're a married man, I'm having expectations for you, that crosses all lines. That's first disrespectful to your wife. That's disrespectful to your family, and I'm just not respecting myself. So the expectation part, I don't agree with. But can you, if you chose to, as a married man, lead other women other than your wife? Yeah, because you're doing it right now as far as facilitating this conversation. So it's I think that's it's a tricky, that word expect is tricky. If you ditch that word, then we can talk about it a little bit more. But aside from your wife, unless your wife is okay with it, I wouldn't have any expectation. That's my answer.
Can I say something about the question, Curtis? Hi, everyone.
What's up, Nubian, of course.
Mm. uh, I, uh, I'm kind of like a little bit dumbfounded with it because the definition of someone being a leader. If you say a husband is a leader, or if you say a man is a leader, then he's the leader. You don't get to tell him how to lead. You have to be able to submit under that leadership and trust him to lead and trust him to make the decisions where his leadership boundaries end. Um, as a woman, it's not my place to tell a man how to lead. So that's why I have a little trouble with that question as to my expectations. Why do I have to have expectations? My role as a wife is to submit and let him lead. And we cannot cherry pick um, on a man's leadership. We say he should lead the community, but then he shouldn't lead single women. Single women are part of a community. So what do we actually want? I don't know. Um, a leader is a leader, whether he's a leader over his family, a leader over his community, he's a leader and you trust him to lead. So, any questions being asked about how a man should lead is not a question for me as a woman to answer. So, that's my answer about that.
This is why I say there is no community. I know it sounds, and again, I'm not trying to be negative, but I don't think people actually understand how communities are played, like how that plays out in real time. So that's why I've always said I would I would encourage, I don't give advice, but I would encourage a lot of women to not expect protection, leadership, covering, none of that from anyone but your man and the men in your family. Outside of that, you would have had to have built a strong rapport with that man if he ain't got no ties to you. And that's just the truth. A lot of men, if that you are not their woman, they don't care. Point blank period. um so I just think it's best not to have that expectation, because at the end of the day, technically it's not that man's responsibility to cover all women. And because of that mindset, it goes back to, like I said, there is no community, so that mindset makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Nubian, I was gonna say for your point, which was very valid. It's all about perspective, right? So you're looking at it from the wife's perspective. I was looking at it from the single woman's perspective, who has an expectation of this married man to lead her, where you're saying the wife shouldn't have this expectation of, trying to decide where her husband, who her husband leads. So I think there's a different lens that you and I are looking at it from. But I think either way, it's all up to that married man, right? Because he's the constant, he's the one that doesn't change, right? So he would have to be the leader to make that decision whether or not he's going to either lead the community or only lead his family. And I think that's where, that responsibility as a leader comes in to make that decision.
So
So I got
like,
a go ahead, Pimp, and I got a follow up question for you.
no, well, I low key kind of wanted to ask a question myself because I'm just starting to think like, and I respect everyone's perspective, but for the women that do feel like the men should lead both their household and the community, like where do you guys expect these married men to lead all women? Like, what, where are they leading us to? That's kind of what's confusing me because I don't see any of them leading me anywhere. Me personally. But
And
maybe I
I
could
don't
be
think
wrong.
most single women want a married man to lead them.
I don't. I would prefer not to. Like, sir, don't talk to me. Where's your wife? Where is she? Okay, all right. Find her. Don't come tell me to do nothing, because I'm not gonna listen to
Right.
you. All right.
Because
Thank
the
you.
dynamic of their marriage could be funky as hell in your perspective,
No,
right?
but
Their marriage works for them. So you don't. always, you like considering a married man leading you, if you don't respect the way he's leading his marriage and his household, then there's nothing he can lead you to. So I think, a lot of this is probably going to be built around perspective.
Yeah,
Agreed, which
that's
is
because. Oh, no, go ahead.
well, agree, which is why I asked the question because I'm just simply like I don't a lot of and everybody's relationship works the way that it works. So like the way that some women will submit to their husbands, I don't agree with some of the things that they like to go and do in their relationships. I just don't. So for me to want to follow you, I would have to agree with your lifestyle, your relationship model, and most of the times I don't. It's just like what I don't even know why she following you. What's the incentive for me to follow you?
Yeah,
Um,
so
oh,
the I'll give it to
okay.
you. Day. So I was just saying this, right? the when narrowing it down to marriage and single women and community and marriage, was like separating all of these things. And I feel like, to the point that I didn't made earlier, we're sitting on this stage and we're being led by a man in a conversation. So leadership is not some it's not like we're following is maybe I have a different perspective about it, because I feel like if you're a leader in your community, you're a leader that is married. There are examples that you portray that everybody else admires in you, in your character and the things that you do and how you present yourself in your community as a whole. They're just things that make you a leader. So it's not like because he's married and he's a leader, he's leading all the single women, that means he's cheating or he's do no. A leader is someone that is looked upon in the community, and he has influence over the community by the things that he does and how he carries himself, in spite even of his marriage, right? So he has different positions of different people in the community, and how that is looked upon. If we're looking at it as because he's leading, so as a single woman, if I'm following his leadership, that means I'm his wife, and I have to I think we were looking at it in terms of relationship, which is different. So maybe that's why I have a different perspective about that.
And I want to
Okay,
share really
Oh,
quickly.
sorry, I was going to give it
I
to
see.
Ade. I took a mic from her. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Erica.
It's really quick, Ade. I'm sorry. I wanted to, in terms of Nubian's comment that Curtis is leading us as women in this conversation. I don't look at it that way. I feel like Curtis is leading this conversation, but I don't feel like I'm being led by a man on this stage. So again, perspective is everything. Perspective is everything. That's all I wanted to say.
So, Ade, did you want her to go? I'm gonna ask
Mm-mm,
y'all a
go
follow up
ahead.
question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So here's a follow up, ladies, and I appreciate y'all. Um, is leadership attractive to you? And if so, obviously, I believe you'll say yes. But if so, what makes leadership attractive to y'all?
Me personally, I don't feel like all leadership is attractive. There's different forms of leadership. It depends on what it is, where it's leading to, what the dynamic is, and then what are the results that are supposed to come out of that leadership. It depends. Most of the time, to me, it's attractive, but a lot of the time, I'm sorry, I'm mixing my words around. A lot of the time, it's very attractive to me, and I think that's because of the power and respect that that man has. That's obviously me being a woman. That's always going to be super attractive to me. Especially when you have like a lot of other men admiring this other one man. I love that. I normally tend to like when I'm dating somebody, I normally tend to go for one of the leaders out of the friend group. I just prefer that. If I feel like you're not one of the leaders in your friend group, I probably won't date you at all. Um, but again, some people's leadership technically is a little bit toxic. So I don't know. It just depends on what the results are that are going to come out of that, to be honest.
I agree.
Anybody else like to answer the follow-up question? I have another question for y'all.
Sorry, what was the follow up question? I got on the phone.
Sorry. Yeah, the follow-up question is leadership attractive to y'all? And if so, what makes it attractive?
It's definitely attractive. Um, I think being with a man who doesn't always have to have their woman be the brain of the relationship is very attractive to most women that I know. So that's my answer.
Yeah, and it also puts you in a position of power. And so I think the attractiveness comes where you are now in a position where I feel safe, I feel protected, I feel, like you're reliable, you're responsible. Leadership comes with a sense of responsibility. And so it really demonstrates a character trait that it's very becoming. It's very respected, and so yeah, it's very attractive.
And a lot of men do not know how to lead properly, especially if you're an effective leader and you do it well. It's very attractive. A lot of men don't portray that aspect, so that's that's my answer as well.
All right, so let's go into like entertainment and social media, right? When it comes around this title, is it black men's fault? So here's a question: is the current image of black women as a whole black men's fault? For example, Sexy Red, Drea Michelle, IG Baddies, etc. So the question is the current image of black women as a whole black men's fault? For example, Sexy Red, Drea Michelle, IG Baddies, etc.
Okay, so
I
you're
don't.
talking about a certain, if you're talking about a certain, I don't know, type of woman, right? Because we all don't fall in that category. Clearly, I look nothing like Dre Michelle. I'm not built like her. Don't have a tiny waist like her. Um, so if we're talking about that model type look or whatever that is, with the just going by the names that you named, no, I don't think that that's men's fault. I think that that is the not onus, but that's definitely the will of the woman to present in a certain way. I don't think she might be doing it for a man in certain circumstances, but at the end of the day, the way a woman chooses to present herself is on her. I'm done.
And why is
I
that even
think
considered the image of a black woman, first of all? That's crazy.
I
Yeah,
think
that
I
was.
don't
Oh Lordy Pip, that is
I
crazy.
definitely don't
Is
think
that
that's men's
considered?
Yeah,
fault.
that's insane. That was going to
Yeah.
be my question. Like, cause even though I love listening to like Sexy Red and a lot of the other female rappers, I just love the energy that I'll get from listening to their songs. Do I feel like they are the image? I honestly don't even think that we should take the way that they act and react in their videos as that's even their image, because a lot of times when you watch their interviews, they're dressed very differently, they talk very differently. They are, a lot of them are very versatile in different settings. They can definitely code switch. So with that being said, I don't know, I, I wouldn't say that they are the image of black women. I definitely wouldn't say that. But i don't I don't know, somebody else could talk, because I forgot what else I was saying.
I I don't think it's men's fault at all. I think it's social media. I it's a lot of things that go on with like the Sexy Reds and all that stuff like that. You know, it's little girls listening to Sexy Red talking about bow bow bow. Like that don't have nothing to do with no men at all. I mean, if you want to dig or dive deeper, it got something to do with their mamas. Maybe a broken home and not having the dad around. But I definitely don't think it have nothing to do with no black men. I'm sorry to y'all, but y'all get blamed for a lot of shit that don't be y'all fault. And I'm sorry that you even have to ask that question. But a lot of the onus be on, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be no pick me, but it be they mama fault, most of the time. But we ain't ready for that conversation. I'm gonna mute up.
Hmm.
I
I
agree.
would.
I think men. Go ahead, today. You haven't
No, no.
spoken.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You sure? Okay. No. I agree. I think men support it, but that's because they benefit. Yeah, they benefit from, women showing up like a slore and throwing pussy around. They benefit from that. So they're not gonna turn it, they're not gonna say, no, don't do that. They're gonna support it. So we big grown ages, you can't blame a man for you being a slut. Like, that don't even make sense. You got a choice, babe. We all got choices. It's really just that simple. So no,
especially
I
in
think men support it.
2024.
Right, in 2024 especially. So it's not men support it, of course, but that's men. They're gonna do that. So that's my answer.
I did
A
go. You
day
want to
ago,
go ahead?
yeah.
No, I'll wait for the next one. I'm good. I agree with whatever Caleb.
Yeah.
Everything, not whatever.
Okay.
I agree with everything
So
Caleb
what I
said.
was going to say is I agree with Gabrielle, but also I do I do want to say that men has part of the fault as well, because if they're promoting it, if they're benefiting from it, they're supporting that culture, then they're partly at fault as well. But I think that majority of the fault goes to the women who portray themselves in that way. And it's hilarious that we're saying that, because I don't even think that these women think that what they're doing or how they're representing themselves has any negative effect or on the image of a black woman per se. It goes back to that individualistic mindset of, this is my life, you can't tell me what to do or how to lead it, and they don't think about the bigger picture of how I show up as an individual, what it reflects back on my community or the rest of the other women in my community. So, and that's why those things now can be reflected in term black women image, and yet not all black women are showing up like that. So um the women are at fault for how every single decision you make in your life, you're pretty much responsible for the decisions that you make. So we can't say we'll blame it on the men, and we can't either say that that's the image. I refuse to accept that that's the image of the black woman, because I know the opposite to be true for sure.
To
So
add
I
on
I
to
will
fully
that,
add to
have
this
this.
to
really
add,
quick.
oh, go ahead, a day.
No, you're good.
Um,
So I will say really quick. So I'm reading the chat, and I'm learning to just not respond or react, right? But I'm reading some of the things that y'all are saying, and so I took a deep breath, and I'm gonna try to say this nicely and whatnot. I com. mm, I do not put any blame on black men for the reason of, what women, like the women that you've listed, Curtis, Drea, Sexy Red, it is not y'all fault at all. It's not, right? I will not even put a percent on there whatsoever. The reason is because, unfortunately, because what happens is this: we can sit there and look, we are in an election year this year, right? And what y'all will start seeing, if you are not seeing already, you are going to see different political parties put a ton of money into their campaigns to influence what your vote is going to be, right? You're going to be experienced to this. You're going to see it around in TVs, in billboards, conversations, whatever. You'll see that all over yourself, right? At the end of the day, though, you have the ability, most of not everybody, but a lot of y'all have the ability to read, right? You have the ability to listen to those things and to make your own decision about how you move and what you want to do, right? Black men can do whatever they want to do. And maybe I'm in my pick me bag lately and whatnot, and I've been listening a lot to what men have said, or I've just been coming from a healthy perspective. But nobody has that much power to influence what you are doing with yourself. What happens are we see things and we decide, well, this is what I'm going to do to get this man's attention. This is what I'm going to do with my life, and I'm going to subscribe to that. What Drea did, guess what? Let me give a newsflash to you guys, right? What Drea did was she said, what I see for myself is I want to have a child. This is who I'm going to have a child by. And boom, she's pregnant, living her best life, whatever that is. That is what she decided to do, right? It wasn't a black man telling her, oh, well, if you want to get some clout, or if you want to be in the shade room, if you want to be this and that, whatever, go ahead and get pregnant by a 22-year-old. It will drive people crazy. That's what she decided to do. It's not about a black man whispering in her ear. And like, I think we're giving too much credit. So that's why I say, okay? Like, y'all don't have that much influence over that. I'm not even gonna put that on y'all. That's not me being disrespectful. That's not me saying that y'all don't matter. What I'm saying is, it is not black men's fault for why women move how they want to move, right? And again, I'm laying with this. I do not speak for every black woman. I don't want to speak for y'all. I want to speak for myself. Okay. I have heard things. I'm cool with some people on this app. I'm not gonna say I'm cool with people on the app. I've had conversations and whatnot. Case in point, I had a talk with somebody earlier today that gave me their perspective about something. And I said, I disagree with you. Because guess what? His opinion does not influence what I do or what I decide to do. So again, I'll land with this when I say, no, it's not y'all fault. It's not y'all fault whatsoever. It's not.
To be honest, I want to like highlight a word that because he said fought. So and I completely agree with you a day because like the one thing that I was just thinking in my head, like, I don't think that it's anybody's fault, man or woman, of why anybody on this earth decides to, like you said, live the way that they want to live, make the decisions that they want to make. I don't really think there should be a finger pointed anywhere to see where the blame is. Like, we live in 2024. Everybody can live how they want to live. They can choose to be the person that they want to be. They can dress how they want to dress. They can act how they want to act. They can adopt any type of personality that they want. They can choose any sexuality. They can choose any religion. They can choose to listen to any music. I don't think it should be a, hey, well, whose fault is this and why is this like this, and try to figure out what went wrong here, what went wrong there. More so just respect each other's lifestyle. Like, I don't really think we should be like, oh, well, this person acts like this, we need to figure out what's wrong with them, because then we start putting like a, I just feel like it's too many negative connotations put on certain things instead of having respect for one another's lifestyles.
I just want
And
I
women
want
and women are
I
not
want
children, right? We get to have the authority to choose what we look like. We don't have to be led to dress a certain way. Nobody, like, I'm almost 50. I'm sure a lot of we're all adults on this stage. How dare someone even think that they are responsible for the way another person presents? We're all free thinking adults. Many of us are college educated, right? We don't need to be told what to wear. I just think that that's a little foolish. I'm done.
I want to add on to this conversation just a little point that I haven't heard from anybody. When we have these conversations, let's say about black men and how they're unhealed and how they treat black women, sometimes we go to the extreme of saying they had a bad relationship with their mother. It started with the mother. So I don't hear it as much, but I think for black women, sometimes we might need to say it might have started with the father. It might have started with the lack of fatherhood in that black woman's life. Because a lot of times we know for sure, the research says that little girls bond better with their dads and they're like daddy's little girls. And if we have a little girl who didn't grow up with her dad, maybe that might affect how she moves and how she shows up in the world. So I think, we would have to do a little bit more deep dive to see those three examples. What was their relationship with their father like? Not necessarily their mothers. I would want to know what their relationship with their fathers were like, so that way we can really see whether there's this connection or this this proof that when you don't have a good relationship with your dad as a girl, you might end up manifesting behaviors that may look like what we see with those specific individuals.
But see, that's why I said before, it's almost like we're saying that there's something wrong with some of these. Okay.
No, go ahead, Pim.
No, so I was saying that there seems like there's like a, we're pointing to other people saying, okay, well, this is wrong with you're doing and that's affecting me. Me personally, there's absolutely nothing that anybody in this room on this planet can do, the way that they live affects me. I'm always going to be me. I'm always going to be who I am. I'm always going to live how I want to live. And because both my parents raised me to be an individual, and part of that is me doing what I want to do at my own free will and making my own decisions. Um, I wouldn't dare be like, okay, well, this music that I listen to is the reason why my personality is the way that it is the reason why I dress the way that I do. No, I wouldn't attribute that to any of that. I don't know. And I understand what you just said too, Bernice, but at the same time, I don't think that every young girl that listens to that type of music or that dresses a certain way is missing a father, because a lot of us have active fathers that are still active to this day and still alive well to this day in good health. It's just we were just told to be individuals. I don't know. I don't really understand the finger pointing thing. That's kind of what I'm really getting at.
Hey, I just gotta. I'm about to leave out the car. Can you guys hear me? I'm in a parking lot before I
We
go.
hear you. We hear you.
I
Hi,
just
Miss
want
No
to say
Mm-hmm.
this.
Gray.
We hear you.
I just want to say this quickly is that a lot of things that everyone is saying is correct, and this is what I mean. You ought to treat your childhood. I'm glad that I had some some women in my life that mentored me and gave me some self correction, because some of the stuff I was doing in my younger years, I was wilding out. So just to have, I can never tell a person what to do, but to have mentorship does matter, and we can't pretend like we don't have. I just think plus social media is just is that's another whole level to this dysfunction that we have. But to say that things don't matter, because we're right, we don't know everybody's story, but I can tell y'all this: mentorship is a beautiful thing to have, because sometimes we do things out of ignorance, but to have an older woman, for me, that led me into some spaces that helped me out, that I was able to speak to, shifted my mindset and shifted me on doing some things that was not good for me. But she loved me enough to tell me the truth. So yes, I got, all of us are grown and we say this, that, but what I'm looking at, I don't know if y'all seen this, but it was a young lady and it hurt my heart. It's a song called Plan B. And this young lady talking about niggas nothing in her mouth and she can swallow. I mean, it was the most. I thought Sexy Red was bad. This one just hurt my whole heart. Why? Because she had to be in her 20s, but I'm worried about the young ladies that are listening to this. So it kind of does matter, guys, because I know some of y'all may have had mentors in your life that help you out, because we don't know everything and we have made mistakes. That's all I want to say right now. I hope y'all be back when I come back from eating lunch. You guys have a good day.
Appreciate you, Miss No Gray. So here's the next question. Do you all believe that black men get credit for all of the accomplishments of the black community, men and women alike? Do you believe black men get all the credit for all of the accomplishments of the black community, black men and women alike?
I don't. Maybe that's just my perspective. I don't really think that they get any at all. I don't really honestly think that you guys. It's either you guys aren't getting enough, or you guys, and no disrespect to any man on this planet, but I don't. And maybe you guys aren't doing enough to get enough credit, because it more so seems like when there's things that are happening in the black community, the black women are always in the forefront. These days, anyways, I'll say that because back in the days, it was the men that were leading a lot of the events and everything that took place within the black community.
I'm curious to know, like, some examples of these accomplishments. Like, what are we even talking about?
That was a great question. Who asked her?
Well, I can look. I can only speak for my community, but I think about like in times of protest, there were black men that stood up and said like, "Hey, this is wrong. This is da 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 da." Those men have now been elected to political office within the community. So because they stood up, their names rang out, and when truthfully black women went to the polls, they voted those black men in because they were leaders. So I think that it just depends on where you live and what your community is and what people are doing in your community. So I'll just speak for me and say, yes, I think black men are getting recognition for doing what they're supposed to do in the community.
And I guess the word accomplishment is subjective too, right? Because what some people consider accomplishments, others don't. But I would love to know, like, what type of, are we talking about music, real estate, politics? Like, what are we talking about?
How do you all define black men accomplishments? Because I guess it could be subjective, but how do you define, like, oh, this is some real black men accomplishment here?
I think it could be anything that to the point get you recognition. If you're making a change in the community, whether it be political, whether it be music wise, whether it be construction and improving neighborhoods, I think it just depends on where you are and what you're doing. You know, the men that are in my community that are making a change wouldn't be the same men that would be making a change in a Houston or a Memphis. It just depends on what your community is doing and what the men are doing. And there are a lot of black men in my particular community that are making a change. So anytime I can uplift them, spread their message, retweet, repost, re-Facebook, whatever, I'm gonna support them. If they opening something, I'm gonna support a business because that's what I can do on my end. But I can't speak for anybody else across the country.
I feel like in our current generation where we are alive right now, I don't think that you guys have enough accomplishments, respectfully, for us to be able to say as a whole black men have moved the black community forward to do this. Now back in what, maybe like the 1950s and 60s, a little bit before then, black men as a whole were doing a whole hell of a lot. Um do I see that today? Not really. No.
Okay. Any other ladies? Welcome, Doctor. Oh yeah, Dr. Yolanda. Welcome. How are you? Um, so we're talking about, and again, I know I did a room earlier this week with the fellas. None of the ladies were able to come up. So today, you know, we're interviewing the ladies and are asking them the question: is it really black men's fault? Um, I know some of the guys want to come up and participate in this conversation, but ladies, it's up to y'all. If y'all want that to happen, keep it strictly y'all. Kayla, thumbs down. So
I
there
do
it
want
is.
to I do want to say this one thing though. I do want to say this. However you guys want to shift is totally fine. But if slash when the men do come out here, I definitely encourage, and I'm saying this in love again. I'm saying this in love. I hope that at least one of you, right, took the time to really listen to some of the things that the women were saying, because I read some of the comments, and no shade to anybody, but from what I received, I'm pretty balanced. And I've heard that this was a space that women could just be vulnerable and transparent. And I really hope that the men did not feel that they were attacked at all, but instead they felt like this is just how women feel and how can we bridge the gap together, right? I think sometimes, the majority of times on Clubhouse, we have conversations where men are bashing women and they're screaming at women, and then women are, you know, fighting and they're screaming back at them, and it's a lot of just bad energy and a lot of toxicity, to where I can really enjoy like male-led spaces because I can take a moment and just really hear barbershop, right? I can hear barbershop talk, I can hear what men are saying to each other. um, and really try to understand you guys. And I hope that y'all took some time to really hear what women were saying, because I did not hear, at least for me, and I could be wrong again, but I didn't hear women, or I didn't hear a lot of women really saying like, men ain't shit, men don't matter, men F y'all, like y'all, it's y'all fault for the way that we are. But instead, I heard women taking accountability of things that they can do better, or how we can be better, right? So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because I was scrolling up in the chat and I read some things, and I just really hope we don't take away, because what happens is, and we'll land with this, what happens is now when women read that, now women do not want to be vulnerable or transparent, right? Like now we feel robbed of this space of us trying to bridge this gap of how different men and women are, right? Like we are trying to be vulnerable. And that's why with men, I encourage y'all to be transparent in those spaces, because I feel like women need to just listen to y'all and not take any type of like, don't take offense to what they're saying, like hear what they're saying and try to see how can we become the best version of ourselves. So just wanted to add that in, Curtis.
That was so healthy. Cause I don't give a fuck if y'all triggered. I don't give a damn. I don't care. Nobody came up here and decided to talk to try to make y'all feel comfortable and cozy in here. Cause y'all for damn sure don't do that shit when y'all be up here talking shit. So sorry, I just had to get that off. I'm sorry, Ade. That was so healthy. But
But
I just
even, but I think
like,
even so,
yeah.
Gabriel, I still think that although we've spoken about our opinions where men are at fault, or I don't think there's been any man bashing on this stage. I think that we've all been pretty respectful. At least I hope you might not agree with my opinions and the things that I've said, but in no way was I trying to be diminutive or bashing or disrespectful or condescending. So
No, and Erica, to be honest, like
Not a
one thing I've noticed is that a lot of the times, like some of the women on stage, all of us, we're gonna catch the smoke for the women that they talking about in the hallway. They not really mad at the ones talking. The stuff that they saying is directed towards the women in the hallway that they've been fighting with for 4 years. Cause it ain't me. Like I don't know. Like you got to get that shit off on who you mad at. So I mean, for the most part, like a lot of for one, a lot of them here to just troll, right? So please don't have the high expectation that like this is gonna cause some change. It ain't. It's a great conversation, but these niggas don't care. Okay. um but yeah, I don't think there's been any bashing or anything like that. It's just we're literally catching strays from the women in the hallway that they go back and forth with every single day. That's it. It's okay. It's like a tired toddler. They'll be okay. They just got to get it out, and then when they leave they're gonna go in the hallway and they're gonna feel better.
I think what
Yeah, I just wanted to say
I
that
think what sorry,
oh,
really quick.
go ahead,
Yeah,
Ade.
really quick. I think another thing though, Kayla, is this. I think and I say this in other spaces, but I think I missed a lot of the energy or the things that women have said because I think I find myself so oblivious to things. And so when I read things, like I really just assume that y'all are not trolling. Like I try really hard to decipher the difference between y'all trolling or like y'all are being serious. So I take it as y'all being serious. So I can also like, acknowledge that within myself. Sorry, I don't know why
in the
someone's calling me on
matrix.
Instagram.
Oh,
I don't know why. It's weird. Anyways, so I just feel for me, like I think my biggest thing is I just want truly, and I mean this when I say this, I truly just want Black women to understand Black men as best as they can, and Black men to understand Black women as best as they can, or be receptive to the things that they're saying. And again, maybe I'm on this own island and I missed the ship to take me away years ago and whatnot. And I'm aware of that, but I just feel like for me, like my purpose on this earth, one of my purpose, I should say, is really to try to help people. I try to understand. If I don't understand, I ask questions, and I know it comes off as being annoying, but I just don't subscribe to the idea of tearing people down. Life is really difficult as it is, and I just feel like it's not for me to tear anybody down. It's not for me to bash any of y'all. So when I hear these things, I'm not around women who bash men, so I'm just not aware of that or how things have been shared. I think everyone's feelings are super valid. To the men, I don't disagree with y'all at all. Obviously, if that was y'all experience, who am I to say that that's incorrect? But I just feel like I would just love to be in a space with people or understand, like, if this is how you feel, like, how do we move on? Like, what's the action plan? Like, how do we create a strategy? Like, is it rooms like this that we can have for men to listen to women? Are we past that? Are y'all just like all the women on Clubhouse are this type of way? If that's the case, that's totally fine. But I'm just saying, like, if we are gonna have rooms like this, if y'all obviously are going to be a part of it because y'all either don't got shit to do or y'all fuck with Curtis and want to be in this space or whatever that is, if y'all are listening to this, like, help me help you, right? Like, if this is how you feel, like, well, what can we do or what can I do to change that, or what type of control do I have? Or also understand, to what Kayla was saying, understand that those people that have said those things to you, understand that that's not us. So stop projecting that shit onto us too.
I damn sure haven't done anything to any of y'all. You know what I mean? I know Kayla hasn't, or Unique, or whoever else it is. So go on and heal and move on, and like stop bleeding or projecting these feelings onto women who just want to be nice and kind and to be cool with y'all. So I don't know. That's just my little rant.
So, um, what I'm gonna say is, personally, when I engage in any conversation like this, um, is also because I understand the person who is hosting the rooms, the intention behind these conversations, and I believe that I'm not gonna ever engage in this conversation and pay attention to the people that have been consistent or not making any progress or counting a woman's opinion to be anything, or that these conversations are not necessary. Um, and neither am I going to generalize all the men and say, oh, they're not listening, or that the women are, or just having the same opinion. There've been diverse opinions on this stage, and I also believe that there are men in the audience that I know have been consistent, and they do listen, and they do actually take into consideration the things that they hear in conversations like this that women do share. And some of those men who are listening know who I'm talking about, and that I have high respect for them, that they do really count what we say. And in their personal, even if they're not making their voice heard on this app, that in their personal lives, how you see how they treat the women in their lives and how they apply these things that women say, it's evident, and that you can see those things. So if not, I wouldn't even bother my energy to partake in these conversations. I would never pay attention to the people who will come in a room where the conversation is like this, and all they want to do is troll. I mean, there are days I like to troll too, and I go in other rooms and troll. That, yeah, so I will not be mad at anybody trolling, but I also, while trolling, I will also understand that there are people who are actually definitely listening and paying attention, and I have high regard for those people for sure. And thank you, Curtis, for this awesome space.
And I just want to say, towards the trolling conversation, I've read comments in the chat, or one in particular, that said, I'm not listening to anything they saying up there on the stage. So there's
Exactly.
people in here
Don't
who
pay those
probably
people
just,
no mind.
right, they're just waiting, for an invitation to the stage so that they could get their shit off or troll. There's clearly, if there's one person in the chat who's not listening to us because we have ovaries, there's probably several.
But don't you guys think that that's kind of like super backwards? Because if they weren't listening, they wouldn't be in this room. There's absolutely no way that you could be in this room and not hear absolutely anything that anybody has said on this stage.
Hearing and
It
listening
kind of
are different.
no
Hearing
no
and
no no no
listening
no
are different.
no understood. And also, we if we want to get into that comprehension, we can. I mean, if we wanted to get into that conversations, we can bring up comprehension as well. But it's just like I don't know, like I saw the comments too. I just chuckled and then scrolled past them and then went right back to trying to listen to you guys and listen to what Curtis was saying, because like I said, like me personally, I'll be the first one to tell y'all my own mouth, I'm all for trolling. When we're having trolling spaces, I'm all for getting, if I gotta pick a side, I'm definitely picking the women's side, and I might be, be doing a little man bash a little bit here and there, or maybe a lot depending on what type of time I'm on that day. But when we're having serious conversations, most definitely I'm going to be in my mode of having a serious conversation. But like, I don't know, the chat is always going to be the chat. Like sometimes, I don't know. I think me personally, when it comes to serious conversations, a lot of time not, I will try to make sure that I'm not even looking at the chat, because as serious as we're trying to be up here, they are almost never going to be serious down there. Almost never. So you might have people that are in that chat that either don't like you or somebody else on this stage, or they might like you, and they might have like sometimes with guys, we can understand they got that little kindergarten effect. They never grew out of the little kindergarten thing where they like to tug on girls' hair that they like, or they like to push you down on the playground that they like. They never, a lot of them never grew out of that, unfortunately. So just take it as what it is. I don't know. I like the conversation since I've been here. I didn't hear anybody trolling, but they told me I came a little bit late. Cause if anybody was gonna troll, it would have been me, and I haven't done that. And I'm kind of like proud of myself that I've been having a serious conversation, but it was pretty dope. Thank you, Curtis. I know we're not probably not at the end, but if we are, cool. Thank you.
I agree 100% with what you said, Pimp. I actually didn't even look at the chat, not even once, because I was so focused on the conversation and the richness of it. And I think the fact that we're talking about the chat is actually a distraction to the fact that we were having a really good conversation.
Agreed. Yep.
I agree. But if we're talking about bringing men up into the stage, the things that
And
they
that, yeah,
have
right. In
said in the
conclusion,
chat
no.
become relevant. It becomes very relevant.
Back to you, Curtis.
Well, they're either gonna say it in this space or another one, so they gonna get their shit off before the end of the week.
No, I mean, yeah, there's some validity to that. So I appreciate y'all, ladies. I got another question. This is like family related. So the question is, are black men to blame for the rising number of single black mothers, that or is it that women choosing to lay with piss poor black men? So I'm going to repeat the question. Are black men to blame for the rising number of single black mothers, or is that women choosing to lay with piss poor black men?
I want. Oh, that's a tricky one because there's single mothers that came from marriages, and there's single mothers that were never married. So, um, I won't blame. If there's a situation that ended up in a divorce and the woman ended up with kids and is single, I don't know if that's considered as. But you guys can clarify me. She's not a single mother if she's co-parenting, right? Right, guys?
I th- is there an official definition for single motherhood? Because I
Yeah,
see it.
because I've seen
I
the
see it as a woman in the head of the household with no other adult male in the house helping with the family and the children. That's how
okay,
I
so,
see it.
yeah, okay, so because then I want to exclude that from the women who not the single mothers not coming from marriages. Then at the end of the day, we cannot cherry pick. Earlier we said what women are, the decisions they make. So I'm not gonna blame a man for the decision an adult woman make. If you decide to sleep with a man and ended up with a child, you take the responsibility for that as well. So I'm not blaming. Both parties are responsible for that child. One, if one chooses not to engage in their responsibility to take care of the child, then the other person has to have full 100% responsibility to take care of the child because they were both involved in the act. So, um, if you're gonna sleep with a man as a woman, you have to also do a financial assessment of yourself that in case that man is not involved, would you be able to financially take care of your child by yourself? And if you're not able to do that, then you might want to make a different decision. So at the end of the day, that's my thought process about it. I think that having a child is a responsibility of two people. If one is not involved, the other person has to be fully capable to do that. So that's my answer about that, Curtis.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I agree. I don't think it's one or the other's fault. I think both parties are responsible for ending up in single motherhood. There are cases where one person is to blame, but overall, I think both people are responsible for the way that their families turn out. I personally have seen a lot of situations where people have gotten together, and within 2 months she's pregnant and she decides to have the baby and they're trying to make the relationship work together. I personally see that as a damn near an instant failure. The relationship will fail. You did not know the person that you decided to procreate with, on both sides. So that relationship will more than likely end up in single parenthood. It's usually single motherhood, sometimes a single fatherhood. But I think overall, both men and women bear some level of responsibility in single motherhood.
I wanna add on. I think, you know, because of how I see things now differently than how I used to see it when I was in my 20s, I think it would, it's, women have, we as women, we have to, and I'm going to make sure I talk to my daughter about this as she gets older. We have to always prepare for the worst. And if we keep that in mind, you know, we have to do better in protecting ourselves and not wait for the man to always be the one to carry the condoms, always be the one to, you know, like be the one trying to, you know, it's just, I feel like we just have to do better as women. Because I think that like even at times when I've spoken to my girlfriends or, you know, just knowing sometimes the man may not want to have the child. And he says it, like he says, I don't want to have a child. I don't feel ready. But, you know, the woman would say, well, I'm still having the child. That puts you in a position where now it's like you are you are deemed to be a single mom. Like the guy already spoke and said he doesn't want to have a child. Now, granted, you already had sex, so it's too late to reverse that, right? The child's already planted, the seeds already planted, but now you have to be the one to make a decision, and you may not believe in abortion. So it's like we got to be more preventative. We got to be more proactive. We got to step it up and not always be waiting for a man to be the one to decide, you know, how the fate of our lives, of our future. And so with that being said, I think women have a bigger responsibility. I really, really do, because it's our body, and we're the ones who are gonna be stuck with the baby once he says, I don't wanna have a kid. And I told you I didn't wanna have a kid. So you deal with it.
But why you having unprotected sex and letting a man come in you if you gotta decide that? Like that's what I don't understand. Please help me out with that question.
Well, that's what I was saying, Maya. Women have to start making sure they are coming prepared. Walking, they have to walk around. They can't just be like, oh, do you have a condom? Like waiting on the man to be the one to supply. That nah, you come if you know that you love to have sex, walk around with some condoms in your pocketbook. That's what I'm saying. Like, or abstain from it until you know, like, this is something you really want to do and you're going to be able to withstand the consequence, because there's consequences for our actions. And we can't be like, oh, you laid with me when you were laying with me, you didn't. Nah, people are gonna do what they do. You gotta now face the consequence because you were part of that act. So what I'm saying is, be more responsible. We as women, we can't just wait for the man to be the one coming with the contraceptives and being, nah, get a shot, get your or whatever, that Depo Provera, get your, you know, do what you need to do. If that's how you want to move, protect yourself. That's all I'm saying.
Hey everybody. Um, Happy Sunday. Thanks for the invite up, Curtis. So this is a really interesting conversation, and I know I don't know what was said before, but I'm just going to answer um, my initial thoughts here on where we are. Um, I kind of think that as a whole, one of the things that causes continual problems for our generation and our society is that we like to find fault with someone, right? I think we like to find fault with the men like to sometimes find fault with the women. And then we've got, you know, women finding fault with other women, men finding fault with other men. And I think even though we can find a lot of issues with all of this, everything we're saying, I really think that it goes a little deeper than condoms, um, and what somebody should have did and all that kind of stuff. But I think that one of the things we really need to start focusing on is that our entire culture, our whole philosophy, when we look at social media, we look at all these things in our society, I think that these are the ultimate issues. And I think that the system is designed to make us focus on what the other person should have did or didn't do. For example, and then I'll end. Um, I think that for the most part, yeah, we do have rare situations when a man maybe should have did something, a woman should have done something, but for the most part, I think that because our mentality is so like all self-centered, I think that we all kind of can find fault within ourselves, and then we can look at society norms that a lot of people are trying to imitate and follow. And I think these things are ultimately the blame um, for the single households. I think because we have um, some women that don't really have a desire to respect a man. Whatever the issue, wherever it came from, there's some women who have that mindset. And then we have some men who don't want to be, fathers, or they don't want to be husbands for whatever the reason. Or they maybe feel like there's not respect. And then there's some women who just don't feel love. But I think ultimately a lot of that is because of cultural norms. And I think that the culture as a whole has perpetrated a lot of negativity in people's minds. And I think that it's causing this continual breakdown of the family structure. And the last thing I'll say is I think because of a lot of that, we tend to constantly find fault with another party, whereas we really need to look at ourselves and sort of determine how much am I allowing culture, society expectations, and other people's opinions or other people's past history or faults or even strengths to impact me where I cannot show up in my true, authentic self and take accountability for my own actions. And I think that the moment we decide to really look inward and not outward, that's where the healing will begin. And I think because we spend more time looking at everything around us and listening to all of these other people that don't care, have no reason to really be in our mindset, we're allowing all of that to ruin our own homes. And so, what am I saying? We need to take our own selves, sit ourselves down, and give ourselves a good talk and blame ourselves for what we should have did, didn't do, and refused to do. And I think when we begin to do that, we'll find some healing in our homes and we'll see less single family homes.
I actually agree wholeheartedly with what you said, but here's the disconnect with that. There is like a self righteousness that has come about in our society, which is the root of the everything else is everybody else's problem, right? And so I think we get stuck in the toxic cycle of it to where it's like the people don't sit and think about, hey, what am I doing wrong? What do I need to fix with me? So they can't reach any level of self-awareness because they don't feel like there's a need to. They feel like the way that they operate is perfectly fine. And so you have other people who are looking at each other and we're like, hey, I don't know if you know, but your personality's trash. Like, hey, I don't know if you know, but this is your fault. Like, you need to take accountability for this, right? And with somebody who is stuck in a certain level of self righteousness, you don't wake them up. People don't seem to get on this app. You don't wake them up with your supposed dose of reality. You just become the villain in their delusion. Like whatever the delusion is, whatever they have committed to thinking, it doesn't have to be delusion. I shouldn't call it that. Whatever it is that they have committed themselves to believe, if you go against that, you think you're giving them a reality check. Like, hey, I don't know if you know this about yourself, but it doesn't matter because they're not open to it. It's like, how dare you? You're just trying to attack me. Like this is, you know, and so I think that that's really where we get stuck in that cycle. The main thing that we have to try to get past is this self righteousness that has developed. I'm always looking at myself and looking at, dang, man, yeah, could have handled that better. Man, I got to work on this. Like, I'm a little too slick with coming back at people sometimes. You know, man, I was wrong here. Let me go try to make this right with this person. But that is something that I'm noticing is not that common. I think that you're absolutely right on everything else that you said, Dr. Yolanda, but until we can find some way around just the self-righteousness, none of the rest of it will matter. Because anything that you say to somebody who is super self-righteous, no matter how true it is, you could have every fact in the world. If they have put themselves in a point where they're like, there is absolutely nothing wrong with me, it does not matter what you say.
Yeah, that's really true. Rose, I agree with you. But that's I think that's what we all have to remember. What you just said is that, first of all, someone told me you can't save everybody. It's just a sad reality. You can't save everybody. Um, None of us are perfect. We all have issues. We all have faults. But I think that someone had they had made a joke at me, and they sorry, someone was calling me. They said you would probably be the type of person in the past that would try to stand there and try to persuade somebody for hours, for days, for weeks, for months, trying to help them see the light. And what I would do, this is what the person was saying to me. They said that what they would do is they would just say, "This is what it is. You need to take accountability. Here's some tools for you to consider and move on." And they said that they would probably end up helping, you know, way more people, instead of just trying to, make a person understand when they're, like you said, Rose, they're just kind of made a decision that they're okay. And so I think that I'll end with this. I think that that's why I said we all have to take our own selves and set ourselves down and talk to ourselves and say, maybe I'm not a single mother right now. Do I know how to avoid being a single mother? What things do I need to do so that I don't find myself in that? Look at other people's situation and try to learn from it. If you are a single mother, then can't take back what has happened, but you can look forward and say, when I do meet someone, I'm not going to allow myself to be the problem. I'm not going to allow culture to dictate how I should treat, as a woman, how I should treat this man. I'm going to give respect. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be genuine. I'm not going to judge a man by the size of his wallet, but more who he is as a person, right? I'm not going to allow my aunts and grandmothers' past failures to dictate how I show up as a woman. So we have to ultimately give ourselves a good talk. And I think I'll end with this. If we don't feel like we are capable of doing that, then we shouldn't date. We should just get some help, and just stop and just work on yourself. But I think it's unfair to blame anybody else because we can't make men do anything. And it's not our place to try to make a man do anything. What we can do is pray for them, hope for the best for them, and work on ourselves and pray that we attract who we are, right? And so if we're whole and we're doing the right thing, hope that we are discerning enough to allow the right man to select us. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right. I got two more questions for you ladies, and then we'll close it out. Um, Question is, what are the things that are not black men's fault? What are the things that are not black men's fault?
The 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 fact that they're always villainized, and that it's a very strategic system in place to villainize them, because I think everybody else in the world understands, but us, by design, that, sorry for any other races that are in here, there's no, when a black man has been supported, raised properly, sometimes even when he's not raised properly, when he's just given the right set of circumstances, there's no leader like a black man. Nobody can balance things out. Nobody can handle things with the kind of intelligence and compassion. And like black men just have a different way of balancing all of it, with still being the brain, still having the heart, still being powerful and strong. Everybody gets that but us. But that's also why there's such an intentional effort to make sure that the black man is demeaned as much as possible, because if they step up collectively into their rightful place as leaders, you will not be able to keep the black community in the place that it is. It just wouldn't work. So that's why they come for black men first. But the programming starts as early as elementary school. Like, you've seen the data. Well, you may not have seen the data where they talk about how, I even saw a study where they mapped where a teacher's eyes was looking in elementary school. These were babies. These were like first graders. When it came down to behaviors, they had a little white boy who was just as disruptive as a little black boy, but the teacher's eyes always went to the little black boy first to villainize him and to make him seem like he had the worst behavior in the class, easily looking past white counterparts. That starts that early and it continues throughout their entire life. And so part of that also is to keep a divide here. I think it's very intentional here on this app where, oh, black women this, black men that, because they understand if we get back to working together as a community, you have to remember there was a time before we got to all of the Rosewoods and the Black Wall Streets bombing, black people flourished in a way that you would not imagine because of the black family. That was our culture. We flourished. We had black owned banks and black owned dry cleaners and grocery stores. We thrived. We worked together collectively. There was a time that that happened in this country. However, came in, bombed all those communities. Most of them are buried under lakes right now. That was not an accident. All of this is intentional. So it's just our responsibility now to recognize that we are up against a very deliberate war. This is war. It's a very intentional attack. You see the game and you find your ways to navigate around it and understand that you are up against the enemy. But right now, we're so busy being distracted with fighting with each other, you can't see that this is all how the game has been designed. But like, I'm going way too long, so I'm gonna yield right there.
So I do I do agree with everything you said, Sheila. I do agree with everything. I would say Rose, because I don't know if people know Sheila. Okay. So I do agree with everything you said, Rose. And also, I want to say to the question, I do not blame black men for the decisions that I make as a woman. And I do not blame a black man if I choose not to be under his leadership. I can then not turn around and blame him for the decisions and the things that are happening in my community if I don't trust his leadership, if I have not allowed him to lead. So I am not blaming a black man if I go out in the way that I dress, in the way that I speak, in the decisions that I make, who I choose to sleep with, if I get pregnant, if I all this decision. I'm an adult, so I will not blame a black man for that. I think that the gender war, like Rose said, the gender war is intentional, and it's keeping us apart, and it's separating because they know that the strength is in the black family, and as long as the black family is separated, we're gonna stay weak and stay vulnerable in the eyes of the world. And I choose not to partake in that. I deliberately choose not to partake in that. Even in the conversations that I partake in, that has us condemning each other and insulting black men and black women, And I refuse to put titles that has anything that would separate black men and black women. I deliberately am not going to be part of those conversations intentionally or talk down at a black man in any form. I would choose to disengage with a black man before I even engage in an argument with him, because I'm raised to look at him as a leader, um, and to submit to him. If I cannot submit to him, then I just choose not to engage at all. So that's all I say. I won't blame them for the decisions that I make, for sure.
Appreciate that. Any other lady like to answer the question before we go to the last one? All right, cool. Last question, and we're gonna close it out. So, ladies, what can women do to understand men better?
I think it would require honesty and vulnerability in men, because I don't think men fully expose and show who they truly are. That's my personal opinion.
I
I think
think
it's
that,
by
oh, go ahead.
I don't think so. I think it's by creating space, holding space, by listening and listening to understand, um, and also allowing them to be men and not telling them what to do. I think it's just trying to understand them better is listening to them. Actually, really, that's something that I've struggled with and that I'm constantly working on it. It's hard sometimes not to be my feelings when a black man is talking. So I'm working on that. Not to be my feelings and not to always think about me first in the conversations that I have with them, but rather separate myself away from it, but place myself where I actually is listening and actually hearing what they're saying and trying to understand their perspective and where they're coming from. Personally, I think that would be what would make me be able to understand a black man better. I cannot speak for other people. So if I can work on not focusing on my feelings when I'm listening to a black man, then I will be in better comprehension when I have dialogue with them, for sure.
I think that the biggest first step that we can make is to normalize and make it our culture to have integrity. Because it's real easy for us sometimes to sit and be like, black men are not being vulnerable. But the reality of it is, a lot of men have learned to not be vulnerable because as soon as somebody gets pissed off, whatever they have been vulnerable about is weaponized and thrown in their faces. Like, let's just keep it a stack on that one, right? This didn't just happen by accident. Part of it is where it's like, oh, you're a black man, you're tough, you shouldn't have feelings. But the other side of it is that when people have told things, that was a very vulnerable thing for them, something goes wrong, you get into a fight. That's why your mama left you anyway. And it's like, wait a minute, like, damn, like, we talking about waffles here. Like, I didn't wash the dishes. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Where we have to normalize it to where that type of shit is just not okay anymore. Like none of that can be okay anymore. It's got to be like a code. This is not like a one woman, few women thing. That's got to be the foundation of it. Is normalizing. If I have told you something and this is something deep and you know that this is something that could truly hurt me, this is not something that is coming back up. This is not something you're going to discuss with your friends. This is something that I can tell you and not have to worry about hearing back later from you or from anybody else. I think if just as a baseline, if we could start there, people would be a lot more expressive. They would be a lot more open, and just baseline right there.
Totally agree, Sheila.
What? So my perspective is a little different. Um, I don't think there's a whole lot that women can do to understand all men, but you can find one that you want to understand and then take steps from there. Because this whole concept that we should try to understand all of anything, uh, you gonna be doing a lot of mental work for a very long time to try that. So I think you can get like a baseline, but you got to understand that even if you think that you've learned all men, once you get your man, you're going to have to alter how you deal with him depending on what y'all's interaction is like. So even then, you're still going to have to kind of cater it to that one person. So, I mean, yeah, I think the first step is we got to get people like actually into relationships. That's a great start before we can even you know, have like conversations about that. So, I mean, once you find somebody that you like, it's really not rocket science from there, to understand someone that you actually care about and take the time to invest in. It's pretty natural.
It's
Yeah,
actually not very natural sometimes. I'm sorry, was somebody else? Because I would definitely like to make space for somebody else to speak first before I say
I
something
can go
again.
after you, Rose.
Okay. I push back on a couple of things. I can understand where you're coming from, where you would say this is natural, and that may be something that feels natural for you, but it's obviously not that natural because this is a pretty huge, large scale issue that we're seeing. It's pretty common that, first of all, we can't even get to a healthy relationship because part of having a healthy relationship is trust. And if this is somebody who can never be vulnerable with you, how can they trust you? How can you get, you can technically get to the label. You can meet somebody and and they say, I want you to be my woman, be in a relationship tomorrow. That don't have nothing to do with it being healthy and fruitful and actually going somewhere. At the bottom line of it, if we can't trust each other, there's really nowhere to go or grow. So I can understand you feeling that way if you feel like it's something that is natural, but it's really not something that is natural to everybody. And he never made the request for us to just understand all men. We're just talking about in general, what are some things that could be applied to just understanding men in general. If that only branches out to three men, that's three more men who are understood than there was the day before.
Yeah, I don't know, Kate. I don't know, Kate, Gabrielle, if you wanted to respond before I say anything.
Not really. I mean, I still kind of have the same stance. I just think a lot of the times people put their energy in the wrong places. I think if people actually would spend more time figuring out why they're not getting the results that they want, as opposed to constantly pointing out everyone else's flaws, then it kind of would be natural. Like in real life, I don't, and even when I, before this app, like a lot of this stuff that people are saying and that people talk about as far as dynamics between black men and women, it's not something that I find to be this difficult. Like I do feel like the internet is very polarizing. It makes things seem like it's this hard foreign concept. And to me, it, like I said, I just don't think that a lot of women should, especially on the internet, should get on here and think that it's their responsibility to have to understand all of anyone. Leave men out of it. You don't have to understand all black women. You don't have to understand all black men. That's not even possible. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not saying don't, you know, take steps to understand you're the man that you want, but it just seems kind of taxing to have that expectation of yourself to try to understand all of any demographic. That's all I'm saying. But go ahead, Dr. Becoming.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to say that, um, I do agree with a little bit of everything that I've just heard, specifically with what Rose just said. I do agree with her. But I think that one of the ways that most women could do better, if they're not already at this point, is to try to, and it goes back to my first point, to try to internally address their own views, right? Sort of the stereotypes, the societal expectations that they've picked up along the way, the garbage, the unhealthy stuff that's been perhaps poured into them from either poor examples or whatever. Try to address that, get rid of it. And I do think that it is important for women to be able to understand men as a whole. Um, for me, I think it's weird if there's not a certain level of understanding of a man, the respect of a man, um, the empathy for a man, and then to think that it would be easy to be in a loving relationship with another man and some of those negative traits not creep into that new relationship. For example, um, if I'm a lady and I have a negative view of maybe men in my family, or if my mother, aunties, sisters, grandmother, whatever, close besties have negative views of men, and I'm constantly hearing this negativity and I'm seeing it, it's going to trickle into my relationship. And so I feel like it's important to have healthy views of men and to be able to have empathy. You may not run with certain men, you may not agree with what certain men do because I don't, but there's a certain level of respect because I was raised, to have respect for everyone, and to have empathy. That doesn't mean that I'm going to allow you to um, pull me in your direction, but there's a certain level of respect and love that I genuinely can say that I have for men, because God made them, and there's a certain amount of respect that I have for them, and they don't have to do anything for me to have that respect for them. So when it comes to my relationship with the man, that God has for me, um, it's not hard. It's just who I am, and He can see that. Even now, in any other dealings I deal with any other men who are just associates or friends or whatever. So I think getting rid of the garbage, getting rid of all the overload of negativity and stereotypes of what men should do, ought to do, and could have done better. And I'm not excusing negative things because there are men who need to get better. But I think that that's where brotherhood and other men can work together to try to help themselves to get better. But I'm only focusing on me, and I think that's all we can do as women is focus on ourselves so that we can be the better version of ourselves. Thank you.
And
And
I just
oh,
wanted to make
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Bernie, I'll be real quick. I just wanted to, well, let me not say it that way. I hope that women get to a point, if this is how they're feeling, that we are not responsible for men's feeling emotionally safe. Just like men are not responsible for us feeling emotionally safe. I think that if you enter a situation, a relationship, and the person doesn't make you, or you don't feel safe enough to be vulnerable with them, then that's not the person for you, and you should choose another person. So I just hate when women take responsibility and ownership for making men trust us enough and feel safe enough to be vulnerable with us. If they don't feel vulnerable, if they have skeletons in their closets, if they have some trauma, whatever it is, it's not our responsibility to fix them. It's their responsibility to do what I do. Go see a therapist, work that out, focus on yourself, to what Becoming was saying. Focus on you, because a better more healed you will attract the type of woman who will make you feel safe enough to be vulnerable with, and someone that you can build a trusting relationship with. I think we need to be focusing on ourselves as individuals, both men and women. I think men need to do a lot of healing. A lot of Black women have started the process of healing, and I'm just hoping that more and more men kind of ride the wave with us in that regard. I'm done.
I
To top it off,
respectfully, oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Rose. To top it off real quickly, I want to say that to answer your question, Curtis, is I want to show men more appreciation. I think a little thank you goes a long way. I think sometimes we really hyper focus on the negatives and we forget that we are dealing with humans with feelings, right? So I think if more of us can say thank you, say I love you, say, I appreciate you, that will go a long way and that will supersede all the negativity that is out there about Black men and Black women and all the relationship topics that we talk about. So to say this today in front of everybody, Curtis, I want to thank you for this room. I want to thank you for, exercising your leadership skills. I see a transformation. You made a decision to shift, right? And I see it and I love it. And I think, your wife would appreciate that you are doing great work on this app. And I know you're doing God's work because you always talk about that. And you've talked about that from day one. I know you kind of slipped a little bit, but you got back on track and that's what matters. All right. So that's all I wanted to say.
Um, I'll also add this. If if you want to understand, I'm gonna say amen. Um, listen to what he's telling you because unfortunately, a lot of the times, if you really scroll back, and a lot of the women that these or a lot of the men that these women are dealing with, these men told you they don't want a relationship. They told you they don't want commitment. They told you they don't want kids. They told you they told you. They be telling y'all. And what happens is because he's fine, because he look good, because he make you feel warm and fuzzy, you go and mess around and fall for the okey doke. You feel me? And that's a choice. That is a choice. So that's why, and I put it in the chat. If you don't see that man as being a potentially good father, don't even risk it. Don't even risk it. Just go ahead, have some self-control, have some discipline, and move around, because you don't the last thing you want to do is fuck around and end up in a situation where you're looking back like, wow, like this nigga really he was not it. He was just not it. And all of that you can track, you can look back, and there are many women you can ask, and you can ask them, did you see any red flags? No. And they start telling you, you be like, red flag 1, red flag 2, all of them were there. Every last one of them. And that's unfortunate that that has to happen. So I mean, listen to what these men be saying, whether it's the men that you hearing at the barbershop, if you happen to be there, the men you hear on Clubhouse, the men you talk to in your real life. Listen to what they're saying, because a lot of the times they literally will say it. And then now you done ended up pregnant, but he told you he did not want kids. So now you shocked that he don't want to be involved? Why are you shocked? So it's just like little stuff like that. Like we always talk about wisdom and discernment and all that, but for some reason it shuts off. It shuts off. I don't know if it's a switch, but I be telling women, if you think with your coochie, she's gonna lead you wrong. So think with your brain, because your coochie will tell you to do some dumb shit. So please, like, think with your brain, because if you don't, these men are gonna do what they want to do if you allow them to. So that's all I'm saying. Stay safe, child.
Gabriel, that is a reason why I always say, and I know if some other women here probably feel the same way. Um, I have no idea why any lady would want to freely give out her goods to someone who has not decided to make her his wife, right? So I think it goes back to some of the same things that many know from the beginning. Stop giving out free gifts, increase your value and know your worth. And make sure that, before you decide to lay down with someone, that you are really his wife. Don't give out wife duties. And then you hopefully won't have to go through that. You know what I mean? So I think it goes back to some basic things that a lot of us already know. But, because of internal issues, some people think that if they give these things in advance, that it's going to create love. And we all know that that's not how you get love. It has nothing to do with that. So,
I think also we can change things by better preparing the young men that we give birth to become good men. It seems like so much in our culture with kids is telling, don't do this, don't do that, make sure you don't do this, don't get pregnant, don't have a baby. But it doesn't say, hey, this is what you look for in a good wife. This is what, these are the things to be, hey, don't, everybody's not entitled to your body. I know, I think that that's another thing that can make a big difference, because sometimes it can be a baby that can teach a grown man a lesson that he hears in a way that we didn't say. You can teach your son how to be such a good young man that he'll talk to his dad. Hey, Dad, why do you do this? I've learned that we're not supposed to be that way. Sometimes it can be something that simple from a child that can come and hit somebody in the chest in a different way. But another way that we can create a culture where we can understand each other better is to inspire our youth to be better and better prepare them. Just thinking long term. Because when we say like better understand men, well, they start off as boys. We can start off by putting that energy, even if you don't have kids, you're an auntie, you're at church with some kids, pouring certain things into them to make them men who are more receptive to any of this energy or any of this communication, and knowing, hey, sometimes you are just going to have somebody who's too hard, too difficult, where you can't get through to them, know how to move around. Don't try to stay and deal with somebody because she, got the kind of body you like to look at. Look at it from a distance, you know? So that's another thing. And I do, well, she's not even here. I was about to, well, no, I think that was, I don't, the other young lady who was here, I was about to rebuttal. And I don't think this is a situation for us to rebuttal each other's viewpoints. We're going to have different viewpoints. I think this is just about coming from our own perspectives and what we think. So I think it's good that we not try to push back on how each other feels.
Some rebuttals are necessary because some people might just never know that they don't know exactly what they're saying, or their experience might not have opened their eyes to other things that they might hear, and it's necessary. So I appreciate a rebuttal from you, Rose. Sheila.
Yeah, I don't mind you saying Sheila. I just switched my name, just just for shameless plugs for Rose Gold. Curtis, are you still there, sir?
I just said this women.
Curtis do what Dante do. You know they be taking naps and trips with